Well, thank you guys for sitting in on this quick little discussion. Hopefully, hopefully I, don't ramble on too much. I will warn you ahead of time. I'm in rescue life as always, and on 2 hours of sleep. And I put a couple of presentations together, so I haven't had a chance to run through it cleanly. So excuse me if it's a little messy in places, but really, we need so much help from rabbit parents, rabbit advocates everywhere. Florida is especially bad. Can you hear me? 'Cause some people can't. Okay. So I started Space Coast Bunnies in 2019 because a father over in our area decided to get 3 bunnies for his daughter, and it turned into 50. And Animal Services would not do anything about it. They said, dogs and cats are our wheelhouse. We won't do anything about rabbits. The Humane Society didn't have room. None of the shelters in our area, most of the shelters in the state don't take rabbits. They're dog and cat. And they consider rabbits, they refer people a lot of times to Fish and Wildlife. And Fish and Wildlife laugh at you if you call them to ask them about, dumped bunnies because they're domestic. So really, it's up to people that care about bunnies. If you see them out, roaming in the neighborhood or on the street somewhere, if they get left behind, we just picked up some bunnies that were in crates out by a dumpster in an apartment complex. That happens a lot when people move out. They just leave their bunnies behind. So there's really no one except us, people that love bunnies, to come out and do something, to speak up for them, to help them in any way you can. And I always told myself, as a bunny girl my whole life, that I could never have a rescue. It would be too overwhelming, and it's exactly as overwhelming as I thought it would be. But I can't say no. If someone sends me a message and says, there's this dumped bunny over here, no one else is going to get it. And if I know about it, then I feel compelled to do something. So I just started posting on Facebook and asking, can someone take this bunny? Does someone want to adopt this bunny? And then it just kept going from there. So it really does not take any sort of special training other than knowing how to care for a house bunny, but it's really just about caring about them as a person. Yes, so that leads us into the reason why we're here, why we're talking about this, to let you know the scale of the problem. You might have heard about Wilton Manors that happened down in Broward County a couple years ago. There was a breeder who let 2 bunnies go, and it turned into over 250. And several of the rescues tried to save the bunnies. There was a big controversy with the neighbors. Some of the neighbors wanted them rescued. Some of the neighbors wanted them left alone. Some people were poisoning them, just doing awful things. And the city commissioners were arguing with each other, and it was going to cost $40,000 to bring in an exterminator and lots of other things. So it was the reason why we go out and rescue bunnies is because we don't want it to turn into that. So if we see 2 bunnies outside, we want to get them right away, because in a couple weeks, that's going to be 12 bunnies, and then it's going to be 30 bunnies 30 days after that. The mom can get pregnant 30 minutes after giving birth, and she can have another litter every 30 days. So that's why when they say rabbits are prolific, that's why. So this story, if you Google Wilton Manors rabbits, it went international. It was on every major channel, CBS, ABC, NBC, Huffington Post. Yeah, Germany and the UK were even covering it. It was such a big story. And the reason why I talk about this today is because this is happening all over the state. Not quite to 250, but just about every month, the rescues are notified of a case of 50 bunnies. Here, 30 bunnies there, another 60 bunnies. And then we're hearing about it around the nation as well. But Florida is especially bad. And our animal laws are not keeping up with it. And so what we have started to do as rescues, working together, is going to our local county commissions and our city councils and asking them to stop the flow of overpopulation of rabbits into our communities. And that means asking for prohibitions on the sale of rabbits in pet stores and flea markets and at carnivals, because you shouldn't win a bunny as a prize. They're a 10-year commitment. And these pet stores are pouring rabbits into our community. People go out and buy them as an impulse purchase because they think it's going to be fun. They weren't even intending to buy a bunny, and they're given a lot of misinformation. And pretty much every week I have a family contacting me telling me that they got 2 bunnies from the pet store. They were told they were both girls or both boys, and now they have not 1 but 2 litters, because by the time they found the first litter, the mom was already pregnant again. And so there's a family I'm helping right now that has 14 bunnies, and they have no place for 14 bunnies. So this is the story and the narrative that our leaders need to hear. They don't realize how bad it is, because we hear about dogs and cats, but rabbits are the 3rd most abandoned. And yeah, their numbers are not where dogs and cats are as far as abandonment. But if we don't do something, rabbits are going to be the next feral cat problem. And so that's why we want to get ahead of it now. We want to take care of it while we still can, because once we get to that tipping point, which we are just about, I would say we're there now, where rescues can no longer intake and help, then the problem explodes and it turns into that. And to this day, there's still bunnies down in Wilton Manors because of residents that weren't allowing us to catch them, and they're continuing to breed and continue the problem, and they're suffering out there because rabbits were not built for a tropical environment. I'm sure many of you know rabbits originated in Europe, and we hear all the time when we're out rescuing that, oh, they're just fine out here. This is natural. We don't want to put them in a cage. They're just fine. Domestic rabbits are not the same species as wild rabbits. They cannot survive out in the wild. They're prey animals. You know that. They're very susceptible to hawks, a number of diseases. I could talk about this forever because we do a lot of bunny catching. So that's my TED talk right there. But we have to talk to a lot of residents who resist us a lot of the time when we want to help a bunny who is obviously suffering. We just rescued Francesca, who's a white lion head, just 2 weeks ago, and her ears were solid packed with ear mites, and she looked miserable sitting outside. Like, she just was hunched down and was in so much pain. And some of the neighbors just said, oh, she's just fine out here. We like seeing her. We like seeing her is what a lot of people say. We enjoy it. We enjoy it like they're squirrels or something. But why I want to come and talk to you is because I want you to have that information and that experience to know what to say. If you ever are out trying to rescue a bunny and someone says they're just fine or I enjoy seeing them, first of all, it's illegal. In most places, I've yet to find a place where it is legal for domestic rabbits to roam free. They're not allowed to do that. There's leash laws, there's animal containment laws. And so that's the first thing I tell people is it's not legal for them to be out here. And are they going to take responsibility for that rabbit? Because a lot of times people say no, and that's when they walk away. So that's the first thing you can tell them. Of course, if you're ever trying to catch a bunny, you have to respect, private property, and you don't want to trespass or anything like that. But we try to work with neighbors and get their permission so that it's a cooperative undertaking so that we can rescue rabbits. But we're really trying to get to the source of the problem again, which is advocacy and going to your local representatives. And the problem that we've encountered over in Brevard with past commissioners is that leaders everywhere are very hesitant to restrict business in any way. And so what we've been telling them, you can go ahead. Yeah, I'm just going through the problem right now. Like I said, I haven't gone through the whole presentation together, but it's similar to what was going on with the dog and cat bans that were being passed around the state. A lot of the lobbyists were for puppy breeders, puppy mills, puppy breeders, and the pet stores that sell puppies. With puppies, there is a big markup on the puppies themselves. So the stores and the breeders and the exclusive puppy stores that sell only puppies, they're making their profit off of the puppies. With rabbits, when you sell rabbits in a pet store, there's not a lot of markup on them. They're not making their profit off of bunnies. They're making their profit off of the sale of food and cages and supplies. That's where their margins come in. And so what we've been trying to get across to legislators and commissioners is that restricting the sale of rabbits is not going to hurt business, because that's what they want to hear. And we hear it all the time from legislators that we talk to, is come to us with numbers and financial information and how it's going to impact the community, because the bleeding heart stuff falls on deaf ears. We can care about bunnies, we can break down, we can tell you how much they suffer and how awful it is and how bad the problem is, but you have to frame the discussion when you go to your leaders or anyone you reach out to via email or calls or, council meetings. Put it in terms of things that they want to hear, which is finances. Is this going to hurt businesses? No, it's not going to hurt businesses. And it's actually going to cause disturbances in neighborhoods, create a public nuisance. You're going to make residents unhappy when colonies start popping up. So you have to always remember, put it in framing that community leaders want to hear. So I'm going to go on from that. So that's, we did media coverage. Has been all over for this. We've had a number of stories on the local news that always talk about it. Always reach out to your local media if, you want to talk to them about Easter or adopting or rabbit dumping. Just make sure that you stay in the ear of anybody that is in a position to bring attention to rabbits. One of the other problems is that while you can find low-cost spay and neuter for dogs and cats, it's nearly impossible to find low-cost spay and neuter for rabbits. The most affordable place that I know of is Humane Society of the Treasure Coast, and that's $125. And when a family has a dozen baby bunnies, they're not going to spend that. But in most places, it's $350 to $400 at a minimum. That's the reasonable price for a spay or neuter. There's a vet in Brevard County that's quoting people $1,200. And then when someone who's not very rabbit savvy, they bought a couple bunnies from the pet store, they call up this place and they say $1,200, they just hang up and they don't think about it again. And then they let the bunnies go. And that's where the problem is coming from. So retailers really need to be held responsible for this. There's no accountability, and that's the point that we've been trying to get across to our leaders. And now we have certain chains that sell rabbit, not all chains, but certain chains, one that I don't want to mention today, sells rabbits, and they're expanding locations, at least in Brevard County they are. And I'm sure, as Florida experiences growth and migration to the south, we have more population growth, more of these outlets are going to be opening. And now Tractor Supply just created a new franchise or a new retail chain called PetSense, and they're selling rabbits now. So we have another retailer to contend with, putting rabbits into the community. So that's what we're experiencing and we're up against right now. Do you want to go ahead? So this is one of the infographics that we created to share with our commissioners to show why rabbits need attention. So when we have these sorts of efforts going on for cats, free and low cost spay and neuter, shelters that help with rabbits, TNR programs, there's pet store bans because there's dog and cat retail bans that don't include rabbits. There's low cost clinics and vaccines for cats, and with assistance, a cat can survive in the wild. Of course, we don't approve of that, and we want better for cats, but they're not prey animals the way rabbits are. Rabbits don't have any of those things going on. There's no low cost spay and neuter, shelters are not helping, there's no TNR, there's no limitations on sales, and domestic rabbits can't survive outside. So all of these things are going on, and these are all opportunities for someone locally, for commissioners and council members to do something. Each one of those issues could be addressed. Not that we're advocating for TNR, but just there's no management in place for controlling populations is the point. You want to go to the next one? So I just went on to, I just Googled Brevard County animal laws just to familiarize myself and know what the laws were. And I read through a few points that I felt could be applied to rabbits. So recently, our county commissioners had a big debate because some of the commissioners wanted to expand the number of allowed chickens someone could have from 4 to 6. And they debated between 4 and 6 chickens when someone can have 50 or 100 rabbits in their backyard. And we don't have a chicken dumping problem. We have a rabbit dumping problem. And so that's one of the points that we are going to our commissioners about. If you're concerned about chickens, let's talk about rabbits, because rabbits are a much bigger problem. So yeah, those are just a couple of the points in animal laws that I came across that can be applied to rabbits. Licensing requirements, nuisance statutes, limitations on the number of litters. There's limits on the number of litters that dogs can have. We should have that for rabbits as well. And then, requiring that unaltered animals be kept separate. So I encourage you to Google your local animal laws and see where those laws could be applied to rabbits and where they're not being enforced, and start asking why those things aren't being enforced. You want to go to the next one? So currently in Florida, the past couple years, rabbit advocates, I should say, and animal advocates in general, have been pushing to get ordinances that include rabbits. It's not just dog and cat specific. So a few of them are DeSoto County, Key West, Martin County passed theirs in 2022. Pasco, sorry, I'm sure you probably can't read that back there. Hillsborough County, City of St. Petersburg, we are very happy about. And Indian Harbor Beach over by me also passed one, and they went a step further and included chicks and ducklings at Easter as well. So that was fantastic of them. But you can point to these locations that already have something. So when you speak to your representatives and they think that they're starting from square one, you can say these are ordinances you can look at and mimic and adjust for your locality. And of course, not all of them are perfect. Some of them don't include a flea market prohibition. Some of them are more comprehensive. So you just have to read through and find one that you want to emulate. So the bunny math that I tell our leaders is when we have impulse purchases plus unwanted litters minus any shelter system, that's going to lead to rabbit abandonment. And we just try to put it as simply as that, because I've given you a lot of information, but we just try to put it as simple as possible. When you have rabbits coming into the community and no place for them to go, they get dumped. And then you have to always frame things in terms of the cost of inaction. What happens if you don't do anything? If the leaders decide that they're just going to sit by and wait and see how it goes, because we have encountered that from some people that we have met with, that they don't see it as a problem themselves. So you have to explain to them the cost of inaction, how it's going to put a cost on the community, a cost on their constituents, on businesses, how it's going to create nuisances, and just give them motivation to act. Next one. So when you are lobbying your local representatives, there's a few things to keep in mind. You want to research who your leaders are in your community. I suggest starting at the county level, because there's lots of municipalities within counties usually. So find out who they are. It's usually a 5-person commission, at least in Brevard it is, in the meetings that I've attended in other counties. And just familiarize yourself with who they are, what their priorities are, what they care about, and maybe if they're not going to say rabbits on their website, but find something that they care about. They might not necessarily say even that they're animal people, but you can tie it into something that they do care about, like the environment or families, and pose it in terms of, well, this is a consumer protection issue because we're protecting families from being taken advantage of by pet stores. So just find a way to loop it into something that they do care about. You definitely want to define your goal when you go and meet, or even if you're just emailing your leaders. Don't just say, this is a problem, because they have a lot of people coming to them complaining about problems. Present them with something that they can take action on. Say, here's the problem. This is what I'm asking you to do about it. And I'm happy to help. I'm always happy to advise and help you come up with a strategy or anything that you want to discuss. But provide a solution for them. As I said, you want to explain what the local impact is going to be. Get on social media, put the word out there. Can keep going. Yep, so that's pretty much everything. Always be respectful. You don't want to come off as a crazy bunny lady, as many of us can be called. So just always maintain professionalism, be respectful of their time, and be a good listener, obviously. And I'm not a great speaker, but if there's anything I can answer for you, just let me know.